One thing I love about my job is when I get to work with people that are way smarter than me at things that maybe I never had the interest in working on or the opportunity. For example, Apache is arguably the most popular HTTP server technology on the planet, but it's not without its flaws. If you look back through the bug reports, you may find one called Incorrect ETag on GZip:/ED content, which was reported in 2006 by Henrik Nordstrom. Henrik noticed that entities that were gzipped using the mod deflate module still carried the same ETag as the plain entities, causing some sort of inconsistency with ETag-aware proxy caches. Now, if you're not familiar with ETags, ETags are HTTP response headers that are basically used to identify a specific version of a resource. The value of the ETag is often a hash value that's generated from either the file contents or the date modified or some combination of the two. So if a request comes in and it says that it has a certain version of a resource given this ETag, a server can just do a comparison to see if that file has changed based on the generated ETag, and it can tell the proxy cache that the file has not been modified. It'll send a 304 response status code. As a result, a proxy cache, like a CDN, can just serve the cache version instead of waiting for the server to send the entire resource payload. Now, this is just one method that you can use to save bandwidth and serve things more efficiently. Unfortunately, when you also enable the GZip compression in Apache, it will actually append a little -gzip suffix to the end of these generated hash values for the ETags. And unfortunately, when Apache goes to compare these ETag values, it compares the naked ETag to the suffixed ETag, and it always comes up that they're different. As a result, it's always going to serve the entire resource payload, which is ironic considering both of these methods are ways to, in theory, save bandwidth. Now, you may think a bug like this would already be fixed considering how old it is and that this is the most popular HTTP server in the world, but as we see from Robert Rothenberg's saucy little comment, this is still an issue with Apache 2.4 almost 15 years after this ticket was created. Sorry to let you know, Robert, it's actually 16 years now. Now, I hope I was able to explain this issue clearly, given my lack of experience, but if I haven't, there's an excellent blog post entitled Apache ETag and Not Modified on FlameEye's weblog. Weblog? Anyway, it even goes into providing the solution. So why am I talking about this today? Well, the solution requires that you have access and permissions to modify the Apache config in order to provide that fix. But as developers these days, I know all too well that there's many cases where we can't do that ourselves. I may not have permissions to modify the Apache config, or I may be working with a third-party service that has this bug, and therefore I'm not even part of the organization that controls the Apache config. And this is where the interesting solution came up. Akamai has a solution called Akamai EdgeWorkers, which can basically sit in between a client and an origin server. So when a client makes a request, the EdgeWorker can intercept that request and modify it on its way to the origin server. Or when an origin server makes a response, the Akamai EdgeWorker can intercept that response and modify it before it gets passed along back to the client. So in theory, a developer that doesn't have access to the Apache config, either because they don't have permissions in their organization or they're working with a third-party organization, can still monkey patch this sort of fix until the solution can be solved at the Apache config level. So I wanted to share this with you today because it's just that nice combination of obscure bugs that require some deep level of technical knowledge, but also the solution was relatively simple to implement, and especially when you bring in Akamai EdgeWorkers, it's just kind of technically elegant and cool, if you ask me. So I hope you also found it interesting, even if it's not immediately relevant to you today. If you did, please remember to thumbs up this video, and if you have any other topics that you would like me to cover in the future, throw them in the comments below. I'm going to have links to all of the relevant articles and websites in the description in this video, and if you want more content like this in the future, remember, like and subscribe!